All right, hello everybody. I'm gonna try this again because the first time I recorded this video, unfortunately, I forgot to even write down a character in the casting list, and yeah, I totally butchered one of the names, so I rewrote it down. Uh, but yeah, so today we're going to be reviewing Scream 6, which was, again, like I said, first time I recorded this video, but you're never gonna see that, was levels above the previous film. I just found the way they set up right from the beginning scene with the two separate groups of killers was amazing. Um, so yeah, but again, let's let's just go over the casting list first and get that out of the way so we can talk more about what exactly happens in this film. So Courtney Cox playing Gale Weathers, and again, they brought back at least they brought her back. It was unfortunate, again, that Nev Campbell wasn't in this film, but I guess I don't know what they didn't offer her enough money, or she just was doing something else at that time and wasn't able to come and do the role. I'm not exactly sure. There was a lot of rumors about why she never returned for this movie after she was in the last one, and it just seemed like fitting, like they were bringing back all the iconic characters and they were going to have like a huge. They're kind of leading up to like a huge ending for these movies, right? Because I believe Scream 7 is probably going to be the last one. At least I hope, because I feel like they're kind of bringing everything to a close. And again, this was like the core four kind of jokes started between the four like cast members from the last movie that survived. Um, so yeah, and again, that's the one thing that I probably don't really like about these films, is that it seems like those four characters have almost like they're invincible. So yeah, that is unfortunate. And again, I will say that um, it seems like a lot of the characters that died in the first one might be coming back to the seventh one. I hope they're not like a character that somehow you know ended up living somehow from uh, their death scene, because for Dewey, I feel like it was a very fitting ending that he got in the movie previous to this, so it'd be crazy to bring him back if it's not just a flashback scene. Uh, I feel like that's one thing that these newer movies have done in the Scream franchise is kind of make it so the characters are unkillable. Maybe they're leading up to something. I hope that's what it is, because oh my god, some of these characters have been stabbed like 10 to 12 times, and in both movies, it seems, and somehow they're still living. So I hope that's kind of the direction they're going. And unfortunately, Melissa Barrera and Jenna Ortega, who play Sam Carpenter and Tara Carpenter, as far as I know, won't be returning for Scream 7 either. Uh, I don't know. Melissa Barrera was, I guess, boisterous about her political opinions online, from what I've heard, and then they just kind of threw her out of the film. Why that is important, like why a political opinion matters compared to like when we're talking about acting skill, I don't know, but I guess people weren't happy with her, so they threw her completely away, and which sucks because the two of them in these films were really great. Like where they were going, the direction this was taking, I could see it ending like with a pretty big bloodbath in the seventh film, right? So we had Jasmine Savoy Brown as well, returning as Mindy Meeks Martin, Mason Gooding returning as Chad Meeks Martin, Skeet Ulrich playing Billy Loomis again. And in this film, he was much more. I don't really want to say like, yeah, it was much more like a prominent figure in this movie, especially near the end of the film. Like when we get to the shrine part of all the Scream outfits, and of course Billy is in like a glass case because he's the original killer, right? Um, Even though obviously he had help, yeah, he was the definitely the ringleader of the two of them, right? So um, for sure he's going to be the most iconic character in these movies, and rightfully so, because without him there wouldn't have been a Scream franchise, I don't think. Like the original Scream movie worked so well that yeah, it just kind of built, and Wes Craven was able to create a another slasher character in the 90s, just like he did with the Freddy movies. So, and you know, like the reboots of like I Spit on Your Grave. So it just kind of goes to show you how like powerful of a director he was. And I think these films work better again because they kind of are humorous in a sense, like they're not taking themselves seriously, but I feel like none of the Scream films really ever did. It was supposed to be kind of like a comedic killer in a sense, and you know, obviously like everybody was supposed to be kind of like baffled by the end of it, but it was like a comedy horror film essentially. And you know, I think this film did a very good job of keeping you on your toes about who the actual killer was. Uh, now there was a character in this movie that I was like, okay, this guy's kind of like my number one suspect throughout the entire movie, but I was not expecting the twist at the end, that's for sure. So we had Dermot Mulroney playing Detective Bailey, Jake Champion playing Ethan Landry, Josh Segarra playing Danny Brackett, um, oh my god, Devin Nakota playing Anika Kayaku, uh, Hayden Panettiere returned as Kirby Reed. That was one of the biggest things for me because we haven't seen her. I haven't seen her in anything probably since Scream 4. So that's crazy. Um, just seeing her return in this franchise was like a huge shock to me because I don't think there was any mention of her at all. Like they hit it very well that she was going to be returning. So I almost, yeah, they, again, that's kind of like this thing, right, where they're bringing back characters from all the older movies. So I feel like this is leading up to something pretty big. And then we had Tony Revolori playing Jason Carvey, Samara Weaving playing Laura Crane, and Linda Labardo playing Quinn Bailey. So Quinn was Sam and Tara's roommate, and of course Sam is still kind of like the overprotective sister, right? She seems to be following Tara everywhere she goes, and of course Tara's kind of like, we can't keep living in the past sort of thing. Tara's kind of like avoiding the whole therapy sessions and so on and so forth. And of course, she's trying to make her own life decisions, but maybe not the best ones, I think. And she kind of feels like she's being babied a little bit too much, I think is how she feels, right? Because everybody's kind of like trying to protect her, so on and so forth. Like, you know, even though obviously what they went through in the first movie wasn't necessarily great, obviously, especially for Tara, I feel like she probably got the worst end of everything in that first movie for sure, because she seemed to be targeted almost more than anybody else in the film. Um, so yeah, it was obviously it is unfortunate that everybody's kind of like a little bit overprotective, but in a sense, I get it as well because obviously Tara's not taking anything too seriously after almost being killed like 3 times in the last movie. So it does make sense that, you know, everybody's a little more protective of her and she's trying to be like kind of carefree and, you know, live her life because I get it. You can't base your whole life off of, you know, one situation that happened. Because if you live like that, you're going to be living in constant fear of everything and everybody, and you're not going to let anybody else in. And that's no way to live either, right? Because as we see in a lot of the horror films as of late, that, you know, it's kind of a similar thing with like the Halloween franchise where when they did these last 3 films, it kind of showed you just how much Laurie Strode had cut everybody out too. So I can kind of see the similarities between her and Sam in a sense, where she doesn't really want to let anybody in, except for the people that she already knows, obviously, and those are the people she feels like she has to protect the most. Um, what was I gonna say? So she does, however, have a love interest in this movie, and it is the uh, I guess kind of like the old school rom com, like the boy across the hall type thing. But she's been hiding him from everybody else, so she does keep her secrets too. That's for sure. Um, while also trying to protect everybody else, she's, you know, keeping this wall up for herself, but also letting a complete stranger in at the same time. So obviously he's going to be like a suspect in the top of the list for who the killers could potentially be. Now, he seemed way too, friendly and protective of somebody he hardly knows, uh, to be the killer. Like, that was kind of my thing. Like, he seemed way too kind, and he was always putting himself in harm's way. And even when the killer was there, he was like, hey, like, yo, you need to be paying attention because there's somebody in your house who's not supposed to be there, and him trying to run to get there in time wouldn't have worked, right? Like, he'd have to go down down all the floors and then back up, I'm assuming, because I think it was two separate apartment buildings, right? So he's in one building, she's in the other, sort of thing. So yeah, it would have been, by the time he got there, all that stuff would have taken place anyway. So he does save at least two of them. Now, unfortunately for Anika, she does die. Now, it was kind of funny that Mindy said, never trust a love interest, even though she had found her as her girlfriend. And then they don't. I almost felt like they weren't really trying to save her there. And I will say this Scream, um, like the killers that were in this movie, they did not care at all. Like, especially the store scene, like uh, they when they get the phone call from her old boyfriend's phone, Sam does, and she answers it, and it's the Scream killer, and then he chases them into the store and just stabs a civilian. So he like these killers were like completely crazed, like they were ready for anything, and they even end up killing the store owner and taking his gun. And yeah, that scene still gives me chills because I was like, okay, this Scream killer doesn't give a shit about anything. Like, he will, he or she or they will literally do anything they can in order to kill Sam and Tara. And that was their main goal, right? And then when you find out who it is at the very end of the film, you're like, oh my god, they set this up so well. So Quinn, who is Sam and Tara's roommate, and then I believe, who was it? Um, yeah, Bailey, right? Oh my god, where'd he go? Detective Bailey, Ethan. Oh, it was Ethan. Ethan Landry was the other one. So why is her name Quinn Bailey and his is Ethan Landry? How was he connected exactly? Because I thought they were all family. So if his last name's Landry and her last name was Bailey, yeah, that's interesting. So did they have different mothers then? Huh. I never even realized that they had two different last names. Yeah, because Jake Champion played Ethan Landry, and then her name was Quinn Bailey. So that's weird, because I thought they were brother and sister. Because, yeah, Ethan was Chad's roommate, and then she was their roommate. So that's weird that they had two different last names. I never even thought about that until just now. That's odd. Anyway, um, so yeah, the detective was kind of suspect to me. Like, he was at the top of my list for the entire film. There was just something off about him. The fact that he was just so quick to get onto this case, and then he was looking into Kirby right away, like as soon as she got onto the scene, and to, he tried to set it up like Kirby was the killer. Like, something just seemed off to me about him during the entire film. I was like, he just seems like he's too invested in all of this to not be potentially a killer. And I was right, at least about one of them. Now, I wasn't expecting Ethan or Quinn to be the killers because Quinn dies in one of the scenes, or at least it seems like that. But I guess they swapped the bodies obviously. Now, I'm not sure. Obviously, I guess it would have been Ethan that was in the room with her to make it look like she had died, right? So that it was all being set up so that they would eventually get to this shrine place. And of course, he explains it at the end. Detective Bailey does that he wanted Kirby to find it, but Gail was the better detective in the end anyway. And she was the one that found the shrine to all of the old Scream killers. Like there was the TV from the first movie, all the masks of all 9 killers. Um, Now I guess one of the masks belonged to Sam's grandmother. Uh, I'm trying to think of who Sam's grandmother would have even been. Like, because it would have been before Billy even. So, how far back does this timeline go for this family? Like, that's kind of crazy to me. Because I don't remember Billy ever talking about his mother in the Scream film. At least, yeah, maybe, maybe I do. Maybe he did, but I don't remember that at all. Um, but anyhow, the ending scene was just absolutely crazy. They were trying to almost set it up like they were trying to make Tara the killer that she was supposedly uh, being accused of being throughout this film. Now, obviously, she did still kill somebody, so in the end, she still has that instinct inside of her, or like that kind of, I guess, yeah, I guess it is an instinct, or like she kind of has like a little bit of that psycho path in her. I don't really know. I don't really know how to describe it. It's weird because she is Billy Loomis's daughter, and she's trying not to follow in the footsteps of her father, but everything that happens to her seems to kind of lead her down that path. And when she puts on the outfit and stabs Detective Bailey at the end, I was like, okay, you're like fully committed now. Are you going to be a killer in the next movie? Like, is that what we're leading up to, kind of thing? Like, the big twist is just that, you know, at the end of the day, you end up being exactly like your father, who you've tried to avoid being. That would have been cool. Again, unfortunately, they're not going to be in the next one, but so I'm interested to see exactly what they're going to change on the story of Scream 7 and how exactly, yeah, they're going to tie in like all of this somehow, or is it just going to be a whole new story now because these characters aren't going to be in it? Which would be sad if they didn't just continue on this story. But it's going to be hard to, right? When you don't have those two in the movie, and they were such a staple for this movie. But yeah, I guess things happen, right? So I guess we'll see where they take it. But I am hoping that, um, yeah, I'm hoping that we get some sort of big reveal as to who has been kind of pulling the strings behind the scenes for all these killers, because everybody has been somewhat connected in a sense, right? Um, to like either the original movies, or they've been connected somewhat family wise on both sides, right? So it's going to be interesting to see exactly where Scream 7 takes us, because, yeah, obviously I'm going to go see it in theaters because I've. Did I see Scream 4 in theaters? How long ago did that come out? I don't think I did. I think all the other Scream movies I've seen at home on DVD or Blu-ray, but yeah, um, definitely these two movies. I know I saw them in theaters for sure. But yeah, this one definitely was a standout film. Um, it is among my top. As far as I'm concerned, I think, or yeah, I would say this one and the first one were my two favorites so far in the franchise. And that's saying something, because most of the time when you wait around a long time for uh, a franchise to continue like this, it flops. But I think I think the directors of these two films were really good, and I believe that the director of the new Scream, if I'm not mistaken, was a writer on the previous two films, so he should do a fairly good job on the seventh movie. I feel like if you were writing the script well, yeah, if you were a writer for the last two films and you're directing this film, you should already have like a pretty good idea of, the style the last two films were in, right? So it'll probably continue that way. And again, I felt like this killer was just so much better than the previous one. Just the way they set it up, everything just kind of flowed so much better than the last film. And these killers did not seem weak at all. Like even in the end, they took a lot. It took a lot to take them down. And yeah, I'll give them credit. Like in the last movie, it seemed almost kind of too simple with the killers. They kind of seemed to not really know or be coordinated in their attack. And in this one, these guys were coordinated. They were always one step ahead, sort of thing. Um, Obviously, because there were three of them and they were family, it was probably much easier to plan. But also, they were out for revenge, and because of Richie died in the last film, they definitely wanted they definitely wanted their some blood on their hands for sure, and they were willing to do anything to get it. Now it is kind of crazy to me that all these films end with, it's almost like it's hard to pick a side, because yes, the Scream Killer is a killer, but also they're doing it because you killed one of their previous family members. So it's like, well, these guys are out for revenge. They're supposed to be the bad guys, but also you are the daughter of a serial killer, and you seem to be doing most of the killing of these people. So it it's very hard to pick a side sometimes in these movies, but I guess that's kind of like the fun of Scream, right? Is that, you're supposed to be rooting for Tara and Sam, but also at the same time, it's like, well, you killed their family members, so now they're just kind of like doing the whole eye for an eye thing, right? Not that I'm saying that's the correct way to go about it, but again, it's kind of hard to pick a side when you're like, well, they're doing it for revenge on their family, and you're kind of carrying out exactly what you're trying to fight against this entire time. So it's weird, but I did really enjoy this movie. I thought the way the scenes were set up with the killings were really great. It was intense. They always had you on your toes about who the killer could potentially be. And then at one point, it's like, oh my god, it's Kirby. And I was like, okay, that would be a huge twist if it actually was. And there is a little post-credit scene at the end where they go, not every movie needs a post-credit scene, so it's kind of just a joke. But again, I feel like this movie is humorous enough in a sense that it's not taking itself too seriously with the whole kind of like horror tropes, if you know what I mean, like the whole look behind you type thing, don't say certain things. Like I like that type of humor in this movie. It just works because that's kind of what the older Scream movies were like too, with the humor mixed in with the slasher film, and obviously like the jump scares and stuff. I didn't really feel like there was as many jump scares in this film as some previous films. I felt like this was kind of just more like a slow burn. Everything was intense. You were kind of like on the edge of your seat as to who the killers could be throughout the entire film, and they kept you in suspense as to who it could be, because in certain points, obviously, with there being three killers, it was like, well, this person's not the killer. How could they be? And then, obviously, with Quinn looking like she was dead, you're like, well, they killed her off pretty quickly, so she can't be the killer. The only one that I had suspect again was the detective. Yeah, to me, he just kind of fit the bill, and he was always there with them. Um, yeah, it just kind of seemed like he could potentially be one of the killers, and I was right about that. Uh, so yeah, I guess I've pretty much said everything I can, and they obviously did have the Red Right Hand song in this movie in the perfect spots again, I felt. So yeah, there was obviously nods to the older films again, but uh, the one thing I will say is that, again, they did it in this movie. Courtney Cox probably should have had her death scene in this movie, I feel, but somehow she survives, and again, it almost seems like Chad is invincible as well, because I think he gets stabbed like another 7 or 8 times in this movie, and somehow lives. Yeah, I just can't make sense of that, unless they're setting him up for like a big kill scene in the seventh movie, but I guess we'll see. I guess we'll see where we go with these characters. Yeah, because it kind of does seem like they're invincible, but I still did enjoy this movie enough to give it a 10 out of 10. So, yeah, that was probably my only thing, is that these characters sometimes seems a little bit too invincible, but it is what it is. This was far better than the last film for sure. Um, I don't think I can say that enough about this movie, but yeah. Even all the nods to like the other horror characters, like on the train, like the Babadook and so on and so forth. Like, it was just, there were subtle nods and Easter eggs in this movie. So, yeah, I have to give credit where credit is due. And yeah, looking forward to Scream 7, I think next year. So yeah, definitely be keeping an eye out for the release date in theaters for that. And I will see you guys in the next review. Bye bye for now.